focus is going to be mixed numbers. It is in section 7, dma020. The first thing that I'm going to address is graphing a mixed number. If you are graphing a mixed number, let's say, for example, let's say we want to graph the number 2.5. First, we look at the whole number, and I'm going to move to the number 2. Then my fraction is a half. So on the graph, you would look to see if there's for a half. If there's not, you can make your own. Halfway between 2 and 3, we would just put a little tick mark right here in the middle. So that would be 1, 2 places. The denominator 2 lets you know you need to have 2 spaces, but the numerator says we're only going to go 1 space past the 2. When we graph this, we get a value here at the 2.5. Let's say we want to graph 1 3/4. To graph 1 3/4, move to the 1, and then for the 3/4, we need to divide between 1 and 2 into 4 spaces. Now, if I divide each half in half, that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So to graph 1 3/4, I come to the 1, and then I count 1, 2, 3 of those places. My 1 3/4. The same thing would apply if you're doing, you would just be going to the left on your number line. You will also be needing round mixed numbers. I feel is probably the easiest way to address when you need to round a mixed number. Let's say we have 3 1/5. If we want to round 3 1/5, the rule of thumb is that decimal values and you're rounding, if the digit is between 0 and 4, your number stays the same. If the digit is between 5 and 9, you round up. So the easiest way to address this, there's 2 ways. Determine what's half of 5. Half of 5 will be 2.5. The numerator 1 is smaller than half. So since it's smaller when that rounds, it's going to round down to the number 3. The easiest way I think to do that using the calculator is if you type in the whole number 3 plus 1 divided by 5. That's going to be the whole number and the fraction. When you press enter, you will get a decimal. The decimal is 3.2. So this as a decimal is 3.2. And if we are rounding, that would round down to the number 3. Let me make it. If you're doing this on the calculator, you type in the whole number plus sign, then the numerator divided by the denominator. What that's going to do is give you a decimal value. If the value on the right of the decimal, if it is 0 to 4, it stays the same. If it is up 1. So this one is a 2, so we would leave it the same. Okay, let's do another. Let's say we were to have, let's say we have 4 8/15. First into decimal form. So I would do 4 plus 8 divided by 15. 4 8/15. When I press enter, I get 4.53 repeating. I get 4.53 and the 3 repeats. Half of 15 would be 7.5. The digit 8 is larger than 7.5. So by looking at this, we could use that method to know that we would round it up. Or if we convert it to a decimal, the digit after the decimal between 5 and 9, which means it's large, half or larger, and so that it would round up to the number 5. Okay. One other item that I want to make note of is that you will have a couple of problems where you will be asked to do two things. You will be asked to estimate, and you will also be asked to find the exact answer of a particular problem. So let's say I give you this problem, 2 and if I'm asked to estimate the answer, what you would do is you round first. You round first before you do the operation. So 2 2/3, the 3, half of 3 is 1 1/2, then half of the 3. So this one is going to round up to a 3. Half of 4 is 2. The 1 is smaller than 4, so this one would stay the same. It would round and be just the number 3. Again, we could use our calculator. When we do, I would simply do 2 plus 2 divided by 3. And when you see that rounding, it would give us 2.6, rounds up to a 3. One was 3 1/4. When I key that in, I get 3.2, 3.25, but we're looking at the digit 2, which means it rounds to a 3. 3 is going to give us the value 9. Okay, so our answer for this problem is 9. When we do the exact answer, finding the exact answer, and we're looking at the same problem, you are going to use exactly as you see it. If you're using the calculator, you're going to use the alpha, y equals, and then you're going to choose number 2. So let's review how to go about doing that with a mixed number. Alpha, y equals, and then we choose number 2, which is the mixed number. I'm going to type in my 2 2/3 and use the arrow keys to move around. It's very important you move out from under the radical. Then we do our times. Alpha, y equals, again, we're going to do 2, which is the mixed number, and we key in our 3 1/4. Come out from under the fraction line, and then we press enter. Now notice they give us our answer improper fraction. They give us 26/3. Bear with me just a moment, the screen is frozen. Okay, so thirds. We get as our answer. We want to change that. The way to change that to a mixed number is we're going to do y equals, and we're going to choose number. So we're back here. We have our fraction. We do alpha, y equals. When you look at number 3, it changes the fraction to the mixed number. So we just choose 3, press enter. And as a mixed numeral, 8 2/3. Okay, let's do one more problem. And let's do a problem. We'll do, let's say, a division problem, okay? So I'm going to use 4 1/5 divided by, okay? So as we estimate, half of 5 would be 2 1/2. 1 is smaller than that, so that should round down and stay as a 4. Thanks. There's not a whole number, so it's understood to be a 0. Half of 9 is 4 1/2. 5 is larger than that, so that would make it round up 1. But let's use our calculator and double check. We're going to do 4 plus 1 divided by 5. As a decimal, it gives us 4.2, which we know that will round down to a 4. When we key in 5 divided by 9, we have 0.5 repeating. So the 5 would make the 0 round up to 1. Then we have 4 divided by 1, which gives us 4 for our solution. Our estimated answer was 4 divided by 1 is 4. So when we want to do this and get an exact answer, we're going to do alpha y equals. We're going to choose number 2, and we're both of these items just as we have it. So we have 4 and 1/5. Move out from under the bottom of the fraction, divided by alpha, just a fraction, so we're going to choose number 1. Number 1 is 5/9. And as a solution, it's going to give us an improper fraction, 189/25. So we get 180. We're going to want to see that a mixed number. So we're going to choose the option alpha y equals number 3 to convert it back to a mixed number. So alpha y equals, and when we choose number 3, it's going to take our improper fraction, and as a mixed numeral, it is 7 and 14/25. 25. In our previous lecture the other day, we looked at how to convert from one to the other. We would take our denominator 25 times 7 and then add 14. That is how you get your numerator. If we are going to go from improper to mixed number, we divide 25 into 189. The whole answer is the whole number. And then the remainder you would get after you subtract is what your new numerator. And that was a process that we had done in our last recording. As we continue, let's look at doing some operations of adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So let me give you an example. And let's say we have and when I do these, I'm going to choose some where we have different denominators so we can focus on those skill sets that we learned the other day as well. So we're going to have, let's say, 4 and 2/3. We're going to add that to 1 and 5/6. And we're going to add that to 3. So if we have an addition problem with these 3, what we're going to have to do is we need to find a common denominator for all 3 of these. And once we find the common denominator, we're going to make equivalent fractions and we can add. Okay? So the column here where we're going to put, okay, I'm going to do the whole numbers just as they are, the 4, the 1, and the 3. We're going to use our calculator and we're going to review those steps from the other day. The way to find a least common denominator is we press Math. We arrow to the right so it moves over to NUM for numbers, and we choose number 8. We can only do 2 at a time. The first 2 denominators we have and 6. So I'm going to with the first 2 numbers, and I get a common multiple of 6. I'm going to repeat the step, Math, arrow right, choose number 8. When you have a third number, you take the answer from the first 2, and then our third denominator was a 4. So our least common multiple for these will be 12. So for each one, I'm going to write my new denominator of 12. The way that we can find this, we can cross multiply and divide. We can do 2 times 12 is 24. Another way we could do it is ask ourselves 3 times what is 12? That would be 4. So 2 times 4 would give us a new numerator of 8. Here we can do 5 times 12 and then take that answer of 60 and we can divide by 6. Or we could say 12. So 5 times 2 gives us a numerator of 10. We could do 1 times 12 and divide by 3 is 12. So 1 times 3 would give us a numerator of 3. Once we have our equivalent fraction parts of our mixed numbers, we now can combine. Since the denominators are the same, we have 12. 8 and 10 gives us 18, plus 3 gives us, so we have 21 twelves. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8. The next thing we need to do is take the 21 twelfths and convert that to our calculator. And we're going to let's see, we're going to type in our fraction. I'm choosing number 1 just to type in my fraction, which is 21 over 12. Once we key that in, it went ahead and reduced the improper fraction a little bit for us. We then do alpha y equals, and we're going to choose number 3, and number 3 makes that converted into a mixed number. It's to 1 3/4. So the 21 twelfths is equivalent. Now to get our final answer, we have 8 plus 1 is 9, and that's how you would go about doing this longhand. You may do all of this using the calculator. However, if you do, please come back to the original here and key these in as the original numbers. That process, so you're familiar again with how to key that in. You would do alpha y equals, and for each one, you're going to choose the second option because each of these are mixed numbers. So we'll start with our 4 2/3. Come out from under the radical, then do your addition sign. Alpha y equals 2. And then we're going to do our 1 5/6. Come out from under the radical. And we're going to add our last one, alpha y equals number 2, which is 3 1/4. After we press enter, it's going to give us our answer in the form of an improper fraction. Then we're going to do alpha y equals, choose number 3, and number 3 is going to convert it to a mixed number in its simplified form. And that would be our 9 3/4, which is what we have here also. I want you to know the long way of how to go about doing this, but I also want you to learn those calculator steps as well, because you will be utilizing that. Let's do a subtraction, and I want to do a subtraction where we have to do some borrowing, okay? So let's say we have a minus 3 11/12. Okay, so if I would write this the way subtraction, I would have my 8 here, minus 3 11/12. So when we go to subtract, I need to subtract 11/12 from something, but there's nothing written here. So what I'm going to do is I need to borrow. The 8 is going to become a 7. I need to write 1 whole because technically I'm borrowing 1. I'm just trying to make this visual for you. I need to write a fraction that's equivalent to 1. Since my denominator is 12, I need for this to have a denominator of 12. 1 whole, the numerator and denominator are the same. So the 1 whole that I'm borrowing is technically 12 twelfths. I can now subtract this numerator 12. 11 from 12 leaves me with 1. Minus 3 would give me 4. 4 1/12. If you're doing this here, it's just simply 8 minus alpha y equals number 2. We're going to type in our 3 11/12. And so we have our improper fraction. We do our alpha y equals number 3 to convert. Hang on, it switched me to the other screen. Okay, one more time. I think my calculator has a mind of its own right now. Okay, let's try them. Alpha equals, there we go, number 3. And it will simplify to 4 and 1/12. Let's do an application problem, meaning a word problem, one of these, where we're dealing with our mixed numbers. Okay, here's a good one. We have Sierra is going to bake some sugar cookies. It requires 2 1/4 cups of flour. If she makes 4 1/2 recipes, how much flour is needed? Okay, so let's jot down the information that we have. It requires 2 1/4. That's how much flour is needed. We want to make recipes. That means we want to take this amount of flour and we want to increase it by 4 1/2. We're going to do 4 1/2. So here is we're going to do a multiplication. If we're going to do a multiplication longhand without using the calculator, the first thing we're going to do is fractions into these mixed numbers into improper fractions. Okay, so I'm going to do 4 times 2 is 8, and then 8 plus 1 is going to give me 9 fours. 2 times 4, 8. 8 plus 1 gives me 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 2 is 8. When I want to make this into a mixed number, I'm going to show you, and we're going to do 8 into 81. This is what we did in lesson. 8 goes into 81 10 times. 10 times 8 is 80. 1. So the whole number, 10, is how many cups we need. And then the remainder, 1, is our new numerator. And the denominator, 8, stays the same. So we then need 10 1/8 cup of flour. If we're doing this on the calculator, we can simply key these in as mixed numbers. We're going to do our 2 and 1/4. We're going to multiply that by our 4 and 1/2. 1/8. And then we are going to now convert that to a mixed number. And that gives us our 10 and 1/8. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of section 7. All of section 7 is everything to do with mixed numbers. And we will begin with decimals.